2.4 Universe, Species, and Life by chance or God. The scientific information in this section may be relevant to all readers. You may choose to continue or omit it and revisit later. Planting the seed of doubt. Modern education makes no mention of God as a supreme in its subjects. Evolution theories present a one sided picture. They insist that we have evolved from monkeys, completely denying God's role in the process. Schools do not expose children to both the theistic and atheistic perspective to promote critical thinking. Keen to get good grades, children never question the modern theories. Children readily accept authority at a very tender age. Their academics plant the first seed of doubt about God's existence in their young, impressionable minds. Thus, slowly but surely, they begin to get brainwashed. Science versus science. A teacher once read aloud from the science textbook: Science has proved that God doesn't exist and everything happens by chance. The students dutifully took notes. Later in the day, from the value education textbook, she thought, God is a loving creator and father of all. Once again, the children penned it. The next day, in her surprise test, her first question was, Does God exist? To this, a child meekly asked, Ma'am, would you please tell us whether you are asking as a science teacher or as a moral science teacher? The child innocently explained her predicament. If you're a science teacher, my answer is no. It's all a chance. But if I have come in as a model science teacher, my answer is yes, of course, God does exist and He loves us all. This paradox and confusion are all pervading. As science grow older, they prefer to have nothing to do with religion and spirituality until they get logical answers to the questions. 2.4.1 Who created the universe? Big Bang or God? 1. What is a Big Bang theory? This theory states that the universe began from the explosion of a single point of size zero, that is nothing. This exploding point had an infinite temperature and density but zero volume. After the explosion, as the mass expanded and cooled, the entire universe, with all its innumerable and massive galaxies, stars, planets, and space, appeared from that original point. While the Big Bang theory accepts that a blast indeed created the universe at a certain point in time, 13.7 billion years ago. It provides no clarity on the universe's original state and and its early stages post creation. Second, is the Big Bang theory true? The Big Bang theory fails to address the following four basic questions. Number one, where did this magical point come from? Number two, what existed before the Big Bang point? Number three, why did this point explode at a specific time and not before or after that? Number four, if this point exploded into empty space, where did that space come from? Scientists often taunt this theistic. Scientists often taunt the theists. Where did God from? Where did God come from? They have now made a self goal. From where did this mathematically indescribable, physically unrealizable, impossible point of size zero originate? Those who accused others of blind faith are now themselves guilty of keeping blind faith in a supernatural point. Third, is God a mere point or an intelligent creator? The Big Bang theory replaces God as a creator with God as a zero point. Scientists honestly accept that they can never prove the zero point origin because all rules of mathematics, like multiplication, division, break down at zero. As we are invited to choose between God or a mere point, as a creator of this universe, biologist Edwin Conklin's words ring aloud. The probability of life originating from a Big Bang or an accident is comparable to the probability of the unabridged dictionary resulting from an explosion in a printing shop. 2.4.2 More doubts about the Big Bang theory. Fourth, does an explosion create order or chaos? Did the atom bomb explosion in Nagasaki and Hiroshima at the end of the World War II create orderly, well designed roads and buildings, or did it bring about total devastation, disorder, or chaos? How they can be uncontrolled fire caused by the Big Bang result in such an orderly and perfect arrangement in the universe. The world we live in is not a lump of destroyed materials. Instead, there is an ideal arrangement with water, food, minerals, heat, and light for our existence. Therefore, an intelligent creator seems more likely to have created this rhythm and balance rather than the explosion of a dull point that makes no point. 4. Is the universe created by chance? For an accident to have the probability of 50% chance of occurrence, it should have happened several times. For example, if the chance of a coin turning up heads is 50%, that means someone has flipped the coin many times. Is there anyone who has seen more than an appearance of this universe? This universe is a one time single event for us. Without seeing many creation of this universe, how can we deduce our universe origin by a big bang accident or a fluke, by probability or chance? The Encyclopedia Britannica admits it should be emphasized that no theory of the solar system's origin has yet won general acceptance. All theories like the Big Bang and chance involve highly improbable assumptions. We can now choose to accept a loving benefactor or a dead point as a root. Even if we believe a point as the origin, it still does not discount the presence of a living creator existing before that point. Who puts everything into motion? 2.4.3. Who created the various species, evolution, or God? Billions of germs, insects, fishes, reptiles, birds, beasts, and mammals inhabit our planet. From where did this variety appear? Darwin's theory of evolution is the most popular theory that attempts to explain this diversity of life forms on Earth. Number one, what is Darwin's theory of evolution? Charles Darwin explained that climatic changes over time produce newer species and the weaker species become extinct. Thus, by the principles of natural selection and survival of the fittest, new life forms are created. In this way, life evolved from uncellular organisms to multicellular ones. Gradually, plants, fishes, birds, insects, reptiles, mammals, and finally human beings evolved over millions of years. Number two, what does the theory successfully explain? Darwin's theory successfully explains variation within the same species. It mentions that due to external factors, only the fittest of a species survive. The weaker members become extinct over time. For example, A. Spraying DTT on water bodies kills mosquitoes that cause malaria. Most insects die while a few of the fittest ones survive. They breed further and create a stronger variety of mosquitoes immune to DDT. B. Antibiotics can destroy bacteria within our bodies. A few potent germs that survive need a larger dose of antibiotics the next time an infection occurs. C. Birds with longer beaks break open shells and dig into dried fruits to survive when food is scarce. The ones with shorter, weaker beaks become extinct. Number, number three, what does Darwin's theory fail to explain? The theory fails to explain how one species transforms into another. Even breeding and genetic mutations only produce variations in the same species. They do not make new species. Although Darwin explains how stronger versions of the same species survive, the theory fails to describe the difference within the species. Bacteria that become resistant to antibiotics becomes virulent bacteria. They never become mosquitoes. DDT resistant mosquitoes only become stronger mosquitoes. They don't become birds. Number four, how did the giraffe get a long neck? In this book, The Origin of Species, Charles Darwin says that the giraffes initially looked like any other short-necked grazing animal in Africa, like an antelope or a deer. Prolonged droughts forced these animals to stretch their necks to eat leaves from the higher branches of tall trees for their survival. Gradually, over centuries of natural calamities, all the small and medium sized giraffes in the forest died of starvation. There are several discrepancies in this giraffe theory. A. If all short necked giraffes died in the drought, how did other short necked animals survive those conditions? B. Why is there no fossil evidence to show the existence of a giraffe with a shorter or medium sized neck? C. Why is there no proof to show that on any part of the planet, at any point in time, only long necked giraffes survived a drought? Fossil evidence disproves this theory because it shows that giraffes always coexisted with thousands of other animals at all points in time. 4. Evolution Theory, a storybook for adults and children. Evolution theory conjectures that life began in the oceans. Darwin explains that one or two fish begin to walk on land, took a few steps, and then jumped back into the water. Later, they came out once more and began to spend more time on the ground, thereby becoming the grandpa of all land animals. The fishes thus turned into reptiles and so on until the mammals came about. He further speculates that in North America, the bear began swimming for hours with his mouth wide open, seeking insects for food. Over time, this animal evolved into a whale. This means that the fish turned into a land animal. And then one of these land animals, the bear, went back to water and became a whale. This evolution fairy tale reminds us of Rudyard Kipling story of how the elephant got its long nose. While drinking water in a river, a baby elephant was attacked by a crocodile. As the crocodile grabbed its tiny nose, both pulled in opposite direction. The baby elephant survived the struggle and was left with a long nose. We wonder how Darwin's explanation is different from Kip, Kipling's stories for children. 2.4.4 Further doubts about Darwin's theory. 4. Where did the humans come from? There are doubts about the evolution of man from apes. Why isn't there even a single living proof of the stages between the ape and man? The answer we get is they have gradually become extinct over centuries. A follow up question is why only did the original ape and the in between stages become extinct? Millions of species before and after these apes still populate the world to date. There are no full proof fossils to prove these theories. All we have is a set of conjectures, half truths, and cheating cases to show for these in between stages. How can artistic imagination diagrams and clay models depicting the in between steps of man and ape be credible proofs of evolution? Eighth, what do the fossils records reveal about Darwin's theory? In his primitive theory proposed on 24th November 1859, Darwin hoped that the future fossil discoveries would prove his speculations of evolution. Unfortunately for Darwin, the modern fossil record went against his theory. Stephen Stanley explained that the fossil record shows A. Numerous simple and complex species appear suddenly at a single point in time. B. No links between one major species and another have been found. The diagram and models of the transitional links between different species are simply imaginations of the various biologists and scientists. Darwin acknowledged this problem by stating to suppose that the eye could have been formed by evolution seems, I freely confess, absurd to the highest degree. In the last 150 years, since Darwin acknowledged this challenge, genetic engineering has shown that bodily organs are far more complex than previously thought. The order's task of proving that species differences has evolved through natural selection now appears hopeless. 2.4.5 Who created life, chance, or God? Number one, the theory of first living cell originating from chemicals by chance is as follows. A. Richard Dawkins, the author of the best selling Selfish Gene 1976 edition, guesses that Earth's original atmosphere contained carbon dioxide, methane, ammonia, and water. B. These compounds rearrange themselves to form the first amino acids with sunlight, lightning, or volcanic eruptions. C. The amino acid entered into the oceans for protection from the same sunlight, the energy of which would destroy these huge molecules. Now they peacefully combine into an organic soup of protein like compounds. D. In this sea of organic soup, a molecule that can reproduce itself was formed by accident. Then again, similar molecules clustered together in a series of other accidents. E. Then the mother of all accidents happened. These molecules wrap the protective barrier of other protein molecules around themselves as a membrane. Thus, he claims the first reproducing living cell generated itself by chance, and by more chance, these cells learn to organize themselves as bones, bloods, organs, and skins, becoming the many species we see today. Wow. Number two, we are the chances for life to originate from chemicals. Scientists calculate the chance of a simple protein molecule forming at random in an organic chemical soup as 1 into 10,113, 1 followed by 113 zeros. Mathematicians admit that any event with a chance of 1 in 1050 will never happen. Thus, 10,113 is impossible. The odds appear outrageously absurd when you learn that the number 10,113 is larger than the estimated total number of all the atoms in the universe. What about enzymes? An enzyme contains at least 200 different proteins to sustain even the simplest form of life. If one protein generation by chance 10,113 is so improbable, it is absurd to mention the odds against enzymes spontaneous appearance as 1 in 10 raised by 40,000 oil 1983. It is also interesting to note what Dawkins himself comments in the preface to his book. This book should be read almost as though it was science fiction. 3. Two further challenges to this theory are A. Can we create life in a laboratory? B. Who created the genetic code? A. Can we create life in a laboratory? Scientists cannot create a single egg, mosquito, or frog directly from dead chemicals in their laboratories. They take a living cell from a living body for cloning and test tube babies or IVF. Can we produce a fruit giving tree straight from the elements of the earth without a seed? Can the scientists inject some chemicals into a dead body and bring it back to life? These experiments prove that life comes from life, not dead chemicals. The well known evolutionist Lauren Isley admitted, after having chided the theologian for his reliance on myth and miracle, science found itself in the unenviable position of having to create a mythology of its own, namely the assumption that what, after long effort, could not be proved to take place today, had in truth taken place in the primeval past. Scientists scoff that airplanes or plastic surgery were impossible without modern technology in the past. If, with their current technology, if they cannot create life from chemicals in their labs, how could life come about from chemicals by chance in the past? Evolutionist Francis Hitchking summed it up well when he said that the scientists could not explain the most fundamental questions of all: how did lifeless chemicals become alive? Even in the future, if they succeed in creating life by mixing chemicals, it simply proves that life always comes from a living person scientists and not by random chance. Faced with the repeated embarrassment of failing to prove the life from chemicals, explorers purpose sorry explorers propose a new theory that aliens from another planet planted life here. That simply takes the main question further. How did life originate on that alien planet? B. Who created the genetic code within a living cell? The genetic code is a systematic plan or a set of rules written in the DNA and RNA following which the cells duplicate. Without following these rules, a working cell structure can never be formed. We know how the chicken and egg problem, which came first, the blueprint genetic code or a living cell. Who originally wrote this unique genetic code in a single DNA strand that is more complicated than all the software ever coded by humans? Indeed, exceptional intelligence must have created it. Evolutionists claim that species evolved naturally. Even if that is true, how did their genetic code develop automatically? Even if we accept the outrageous idea that laptops morphed into smartphones, how can we believe that these machines assembly line plans change automatically? Darwin had no idea about the genetic code in his time and was even more baffled to explain who created the emotions, intelligence, and consciousness in living beings. We will find perfect answer to all the questions about the origin of the universe, species, and life only when we go beyond these limited theories to study the ultimate source, God, scientifically. In the next session, we shall discuss certain misconceptions about God and a clear cut definition of God. Summary. Number one, who created the universe? The Big Bang Theory. A. It states that the universe started from a single point. B. It doesn't explain what was there before this point or why it exploded. C. Replaces God as a creator with a point as a creator. D. An explosion causes destruction. It does not create life. Number two, who created the varieties of life forms? Darwin's theory. A. It states that natural selection and survival of the fittest created evolution of species. B. It shows variation within the same species but fails to prove how one species changes into another. C. Fossils records disprove Darwin's theory of evolution. 3. Who created the first living cell or life form? Richard Dawkins claims that chemicals assembled in the ocean created the first self reproducing living cell by random chance. The following two questions falsify this theory. Okay. A. Can we create life in a laboratory? We cannot create life from lifeless chemicals. We need living cells even for cloning and test tube babies. B. Who created the genetic code? A genetic code is a step by step procedure by which a functional body assembles all the cells and organs. This code is more advanced and complicated than all the software made by Microsoft, Apple, Google, and Facebook together. This code is available only within a living cell, and a living cell cannot come without this code. A classic chicken and egg problem. Who created the genetic code in the first living cell? Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.